Hello and welcome to Tinted Specs Podcast, and joining me today is my very good friend Pauline De Ayala, who lives in Reims in France. She's an editor and a historian. Welcome, Pauline.
Hello, Georgina. Thank you very much.
I'm so happy you could join me. I know you're incredibly busy at the moment with schools about to go back. Can you just give everyone a little introduction to what you do and your kind of family setup?
Yes, of course. So I have moved to Reims a couple of years ago. I was previously living in Paris. I work mainly as an editor for several publishing houses. I work freelance. So basically from home mostly, and since I've settled down in Reims, I have started with an activity as a guide. So I occasionally have groups which I show, whom I show around the city, the cathedral, the museum, etc. So both in French and in English. And I am also a mother of three kids, two boys of 14 and 11, and a little girl of 3.5. So she's going to start with school tomorrow. And we have spent very nice holidays. I've been very busy and had a lot of work to do during the summer holidays, but I went for with my little girl only for 1 week to Malta and another week to Brittany, so in France. That's it.
So you literally just got back, and the boys, you picked up the boys yesterday, so now it's everyone all together again. Yeah. So basically you are juggling 3 kids at home and freelancing. So can you tell us a bit about how the last 18 months has been?
Well, the last 18 months have been very tough, but also very interesting in terms of course, of organization. I don't keep a very good memories of the first 2 months when the lockdown in France was complete. I mean, we were just allowed to go out for 1 hour a day and pick up some stuff at the supermarket, but very briefly. And we were meant to stay at home. The schools closed on the 11th of March, I think. And then I suddenly happened to be shut in my own flat with my 3 kids, no more school, and still work to do, because as a freelance I need to work to get paid. I mean, it's not, there is no other solution. I mean, when you hired by a company, when you work regularly for them, you have a salary and it's okay. Things are organized for you, but in my case, nothing. So and as I said, I work as a guide. It's not my main activity, but could be quite time consuming, and so logically it pays a little bit. So that was finished completely, and just no more visits, of course, no more tours. Having put all that on the table, well, I had to organize myself. I try to be a little bit to have a little bit of authority over my kids, but when you're stuck with them 24 hours a day, it's difficult because so the first 2 months of the lockdown were pretty different from after. Because we were nothing to do, we were allowed to do nothing at all. So I decided to organize our life. In the morning we were I was helping my second son with his work, his homework. I was meant to teach him, and he was 10 by that time, so it was pretty difficult, I must say. Because he was not very cooperative. And at the same time, I had to make sure that the oldest one was doing what he was meant to do. He was on his own on the laptop, and I had to keep an eye on the little one because she was tempted very seriously to paint the whole flat with his pens. So it was a bit tricky. We usually were having a break in the middle of the morning to do some exercise. So I did it very regularly to show them example, but I usually was the only one to do it.
Was that on from a video, or you just did it? You just went freestyle and made.
I used the video.
Yeah.
And it was a very tough exercise that lasts for only 7 or 8 minutes.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's really tough. Like
yes.
Push-ups. I mean, it's really hard. And after
squats.
Yeah.
Sit-ups.
Yeah. After these 8 minutes, you could consider that you have done your exercise for the full day. You don't need anything else. So it was very good for me because my flat is not very big, and but fortunately we have a garden.
Yeah.
So I have access to a very nice garden. So every afternoon we were playing badminton in the garden, or running or whatever. So that was good. And in between, I had to cook lunch for the kids, which I hate. I don't like cooking, so I'm not a real French girl. Cooking is not my great success. But I had to cook for them, and then they had a sort of quiet time. The boys were meant to read books, which basically never happens in normal life, and the little one was having a nap. So I had a good 2 hours to work on my various projects, and by the end of the afternoon, if I had to go shopping, I would go then, and then bath, dinner, and so
it's quite. You had to come up with a quite a strict rota for the day because you have 3 kids of different ages. 14, 10, and 3.5. Even 14 and 10 is at a slightly different stage, aren't they? But
and I was working also after dinner because they were asleep. So that was very long days for me.
Because we should mention a bit more detail about what you do, because what you're actually doing is you have people that write stuff, and then you curate it into beautiful kind of historical books. I don't know, like coffee books or something.
I do several kinds of books. Some are really history books, so just texts and almost no illustrations, very serious. And I also do art history books, coffee table books, actually. Very beautiful, very richly illustrated, very big projects, actually, because it's very complex to do that kind of projects. Many people do intervene, and so it's a big job, but I can't do alone. History books, I almost can do them alone.
So you're writing them. You write them yourself?
No, I don't write them. I just edit them. And I'm doing all the work between the author and the printer.
Okay.
And whether I do myself all the work, or I manage a team who is going to do that part and that part of the work. So I'm never completely on my own. I always have an author, usually a designer, a printer, all that sort of people. So, and I organize their job, and I am responsible for the book to be issued on time. So.
And so during the pandemic, none of the projects were delayed. You still had to hit the deadlines for printing, and
it was it all slowed down very much. And during these 2 months of full lockdown, I had to deal with 2 or 3 projects which were still going on.
Okay.
One of them was a huge book of 1,500 pages, but no illustrations. So I could do it on my own with the author.
Yeah.
It was quite comfortable, actually, because
Yeah.
I could do it on my rhythm.
Yeah. So you didn't have to, because with other people like printers and other people you work with, presumably they work within the business hours. So you had to speak to them during the day. So, that must have been quite difficult to kind of squeeze in between,
Well, I knew all my clients were very kind to me. They knew what my situation was. And I knew I was not the only one in that kind of, case. So we all try to make it as comfortable and nice as possible.
Yeah. Because I mean, in France, the lockdown rules were much stricter than in the UK. I think ours were more guidelines, whereas I think in France, at the beginning, did you actually have to? I don't know if this is right, but did you actually have to have a note to say that you could go to the supermarket? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We had, before going out, we had to whether to have on our mobile phone or to print a note saying at what time we were going out.
Yeah.
And we were allowed to be out 1 hour only.
Yeah.
And if it was for a walk or for exercise, if it was to go shopping, well, it could be a bit longer, but not too long. Saying what we were going to do, and but every time we had to make a new permission paper.
Yeah. So that's what's so interesting about the pandemic is actually there was so much more that you had to do. So you had to fill in those forms, but we all had to cook. And I wasn't used to providing my lunch and dinner and it was just me, but providing lunch for all your kids. I mean, dinner, obviously, I'm sure you do feed your children, but like it's that extra meal that you don't normally have to provide. And that, I remember at the beginning, I was like, I don't have what am I going to eat? Where do I get this food from? It's something I hadn't even thought about, that I'd have to like factor in and like spending time making it rather than go to a cafe and order a sandwich. That was, I forgot, but that was something that was quite big for me. So for you, you had to literally,
that was probably the most difficult thing for me, because I don't like to cook. It's just a bore for me, and I have no idea. And my kids are very demanding. Okay, we want sushi tonight, or
you're joking.
No, we want a real pizza tonight. Okay.
Can you make sushi?
Well, just Japanese rice, and you
can do sushi. I've never,
well, it's not that difficult, but just I just after a full day keeping, and also the other thing which was quite difficult and quite annoying is that I had to keep them busy.
Yeah.
Because when they were 10 and 12 or 13 by that time, so Mummy, I don't know what to do.
Yeah. And in their normal lives, they are probably incredibly busy, after school clubs or whatever, so, and then suddenly you have to, think of what to do next. And
and the thing is, when everything, all the orders, all the food, everything, all the organization comes from the same person, you're losing a kind of authority. I mean, I was there to feed them, organize their work, tell them to go to bed, give cuddles. It's very difficult, and that was full time. Fortunately, since I'm divorced and my ex-husband lives in Paris, which is not very far away, we organized ourselves, and he was collecting the boys on Friday afternoon and driving them back on Sunday evening. So that was very good, because I had 2 days a week, almost every week, not absolutely every week, but almost 2 days a week. I had some time to just rest, actually. And that was good.
Have a siesta. And it was interesting what you said about your exercise you used to do, because over here we have this guy called Joe Wicks, and he was pretty famous before the pandemic, but he became huge during the pandemic because he put on, it was all on YouTube, I think. I'm sure he's got a website as well, but he would do fitness for kids and the whole family. So I would look out my window and I'd see the kitchen of the house behind, and it's quite far away, but I could see them all doing these exercises every morning. And it was Joe Wicks. So, and even my mum, who's like now 85, she would do Joe Wicks because he did Joe Wicks for old people, old OAPs.
Yeah.
So he had OAP ones and he had kids ones, but I think the kids ones in the morning were live. So that's, but you didn't manage to entice the rest of the family to get involved.
Well, it was difficult. Actually, this exercise, this video was sent by my eldest son's gym teacher at school.
Wow.
Yeah, every week. I mean, this girl is brilliant. Every week she was sending exercises to do, good advices. Or I mean, some teachers were very good.
Yes.
And she sent that on the first week of the lockdown. So I said, okay, let's just try.
Yeah.
And the first days, the boys did it with me.
Yeah.
And then I realized that I was sitting almost all day without any opportunity to go much out. So I said, okay, I'm going to do that once a day or twice a day, and that's And actually, I felt it physically. It made me some good. I mean, it was very. I couldn't do anything else, so
no,
that was good. But I kept it. I'm still doing it.
Yeah, but no, it's interesting you say about that, because actually when you do work at home, and I know you do normally anyway, but sometimes, you'll just walk to the, the village shop or the shop down the road from me and back. But like, if you're actually walking to get on the underground or transport, and then when you get off, you're doing a lot more exercise. So it is important. That kind of thing during the lockdown was very important.
Yeah, especially since, my sport is swimming. So of course I couldn't swim.
So the swimming pools were shut completely?
Yeah, completely.
Yeah. I've started swimming again in the Serpentine Lido. I have to say, I was like, I'm going to be so good when I got there. And I was doing like really bad, breaststroke like this, my head above the water. But I'm now looking a bit more normal, as everyone else, like front crawl back and forth and back and forth. But yeah, so swimming is great for fitness, isn't it? But the pools are now open again for you.
Yes. Yeah. So that I described you the first 2 months of the pandemic, which was it was a real shock for everyone here, and we just what are we going to do? It took us some time to get back to normal life, or a kind of normal life. It's coming back slowly. I mean, today it's almost normal. Maybe a bit too normal, because I see sometimes people who are not very cautious. And I know we still need to be quite cautious, and even myself, I'm not very satisfied with my behavior regarding the pandemic. But at least we have the vaccine, and it's a big debate in France about, are we going to be vaccinated or not? And some people are strictly against the vaccine, so it's a real problem. But slowly we started to go back to normal life, going out, going to shops. Slowly the sports clubs reopened, and etc. And then a second phase of the pandemic came back. So we had new restrictions, and I would say what has been very difficult over the last year, because it started again in October last year, is the fact that to reduce the interconnections between people, the government decided to put on we say couvre-feu in French, but I can't remember exactly what the word is in English. But we were not allowed to go out from our homes after a certain time.
Yes, it's I've forgotten now as well.
I forgot. Close to couvre-feu, because it's the same.
Yeah,
same
it's not a lockdown, but it's curfew.
Curfew.
Yes,
same word. Same word. But and so in Reims, since by that time the region was pretty bad, and we had lots of people who had to go to the hospital in a very serious state. The curfew was set at 6 o'clock. at night. So after 6, we are not allowed to go out. And this has been lasting for 3 or 4 months, 3 months, I would say, at least. And I can tell you, well, I couldn't.
Is it now? Not now.
No, it's finished.
No,
it's finished.
yeah.
But it was between January and March or April. In my case, I couldn't have any social life because during the day I had to work. I would never take the time to have lunch with anyone because I had to work, and I knew at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock I had to stop working because the kids were coming back from school.
Yeah.
So I had no social life at all. And that was pretty tough, I think. But the boys were going to school. The creche reopened, had reopened actually several months before. So we were actually, I thought the government is telling us that we are invited to work, to do all what we could for the economic health of the nation, but not to have fun. No compensation to our work, and we're just there to work and look after the kids, and that's it. So that was very hard because the boys were going to school, so they were, when you're shut in a classroom for the full day, when you go out, you just want to relax, exercise, shout, run, etc. But no sports at the time. So the atmosphere at home was pretty electric, I must say.
Yeah. And also, it's interesting because when I think of France, I do think of beautiful beaches and vineyards and delicious food, but I also think of ski resorts. Now, they didn't really open at all, I don't think. I mean, they may have opened a little bit, but, and then you speak to people who live in the States, and they skied pretty much the entire season. So I don't know, I feel like that's a little bit unfair. And more recently, France's in the UK, France's was Amber Plus. Don't ask me what that means, but it's not red, so you're allowed to go. But then I think you had to quarantine when you got back. But I can't remember the details. But how did you notice that you were Amber Plus? I mean, like around the people around you, did you feel that the Delta variant was more? More people were getting COVID, or?
Well, so regarding skiing, I totally agree. It was. I mean, it's very difficult, and I think for the government, it's very difficult to know what measures they should take or not, and it obviously evolved during the last 18 months. But I'm not going out very often. I don't see that many people in normal life. So it's difficult for me to realize how serious the situation was in France. I have been told that at some point, the situation in my region was bad, but I knew, fortunately, I knew very little people who have been seriously ill with COVID. Only one person who spent several weeks in a hospital, and only relatives of my friends who died of it, and not that many. So I feel I've been very preserved from the disease. But so I can't really explain. Seen from my point of view, I can't say yes. At that point, that was very tricky and very scary.
Yeah.
Now I imagine what you feel like when you have to go to work, take the metro, have to be stuck in the metro with hundreds of people in Paris, for example.
Yeah.
That can be very scary. And I remember when I went to Paris at that time, I used to say to tell myself, oh gosh, I don't like being there, washing my hands frenetically and wearing my mask and just keeping away from everyone. But so it's difficult to say, but it's obvious that at some point France has been very bad at dealing with the disease, and how our hospitals were almost 100% full. The situation was very critical in several regions, and so obviously we were not that good. So I understand that the UK put restrictions because we had to. If I would have if I had to go to the UK, I would have had to quarantine for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Before entering, really, I mean, before being allowed to go to the UK, and again when I would have come back to France.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
you
So I
know,
think it was the same in both our countries because the Delta variant has been everywhere, and certainly around like now. In the UK, we've got all these music festivals happening, and we had Reading, Leeds, Creamfields, and the surfing one during the couple of weeks ago. And from that, a lot more people have got COVID. So, but at the moment, it looks like the vaccines are helping a lot. But at the same time, I think that everyone knows someone who's had it at the moment.
Yeah.
So, we haven't been amazing either. But I think it's so important to open up again because I, like you, I don't have children, but I do feel I've been mothballed, if you know what I mean. So, or like, I know that some companies have mothballed if they could to get through this period, but I can't wait to be unmothballed and to be honest, I'm very happy working from home. That's what I wanted to do anyway. But it's more just behaving normally and going to France on holiday and not having to think about, PCR tests or, what might happen if, the UK goes red or, I don't know, kind of what you do if that happens. It's just like, you just want to, I think none of us realized, I don't think anyone in the world realized how long this would go on for and how much it would impact our lives. I think it's absolutely crazy. I had another friend who I haven't seen for years called Maria, and she's a astrologer, and she is basically saying that this is a chance for us to, we should grab it and make the most of it, and it's an opportunity to change and and transform ourselves. And I think that's what we've got to kind of look at, haven't we? So, but how do you see the next kind of 6 months going, Pauline?
Do you mean for myself or in general?
Well,
For
in
me,
general, yeah, for you in general.
also for me, well, I think indeed that this adventure has, has been very, very, in a way, well, it's been hard, but to me, it's been very positive because I had to do something that I would never have thought I was able to do. So it was a big challenge, actually, and I'm very. I consider that it was a success, and so I certainly got a lot of confidence from it. I'm well. I hope I don't look like that, but I could be quite shy and quite happy to stay at home and at the same time, I'm constantly fighting against myself to go out, to meet people, to be,
Yeah.
And I find it much easier now to go and meet other people, to be more natural, to be less distressed about what I'm going to do, who I am, and so it made me things easier to me. As to my kids, they are much more mature now. I think it helped them to realize what it is like to live in a normal situation, and they adapt very well. So it's a good experience for them too. About the general situation, it really depends on the behavior of everyone. That's why I'm very cross with people who refuse to get vaccinated, because to me it's the best solution. I mean, we've been waiting for this vaccine for so long, and leaning to it. So I don't understand the people who refuse it. I understand a little bit more people who are against the pass, where we were much more in a what we call a sanitary pass, to enter some, if I want to go to the cinema, I need to prove that I have had the vaccine or that I have had a negative PCR test.
What now?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. If I want to go to a concert, same. If I want to travel, it is the same. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the interview, I went to Malta this summer. In Malta, I could prove that I had the vaccine, so it was okay. But you couldn't enter the islands if you were not vaccinated at all. So
that's really
quarantine.
Yeah. So for people that haven't had the vaccine, that's going to cause them a lot of problems, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, life is not going to be great fun.
No. But you didn't have to quarantine either way when you got to Malta, when you come back. Yeah. No. I don't know what the situation is here, but I mean, I wasn't considering going outside the UK this year anyway because of Rudy the dog. But I do really want to go away, to see different shores and so in fact I'm getting pretty desperate now, so that will happen, and I will, I'm just gonna have to just do it. I'm gonna have to get PCR tested.
Now you can come to France. Now the border is open, so you don't
is it you see I don't yes exactly. I prefer that. I think
that's a good news.
Yeah. Woohoo! So Pauline, thank you so much for sharing with us everything about what's happened to you over the last 18 months. I think that we've all grown quite a lot, and it's been a real pleasure, and you're a very old friend of mine. So I'm so glad that you could do it and wanted to do this. So take care, and speak to you soon. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.